Why will the US government believe they can solve all issues with money? Why should they believe NATO can solve a military problem with money, or humanitarian aid as it's been called? But not knowing the will of the people fighting the actual war is also important. Well, recently US Congress has preferred to support Israel instead of Ukraine. The atmosphere in the room was heavy with a palpable tension as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky prepared to address the nation. His eyes, though glistening with unshed tears, were resolute, reflecting the unwavering spirit of a leader in the face of adversity. The news he had just received from the White House was not what he had hoped for, and the burden of that reality lay heavily upon his shoulders. Hello and welcome back to Innovative Check YouTube channel, where we delve into the innovative and transformative projects changing our world. If you're new to the channel and enjoy learning about innovation stories around the world, you've come to the right place. Please subscribe, like, and comment to help boost our videos on YouTube. In Washington, D.C., White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby faced a sea of reporters, their faces a mosaic of anticipation and skepticism of the total funds that have been provided to Ukraine since the beginning of the war, which is in excess of $60 billion in security, economic, financial, and humanitarian assistance. We've gone through about 96% of what's left, Kirby announced, his voice steady despite the weight of the message he was delivering. Just a quick reminder to hit the like button below. YouTube has been restricting my videos a lot recently because of bots, so your like does help out this video massively in terms of the algorithm in YouTube. The commitment of the United States to aid Ukraine in its struggle against Russian aggression had been a pillar of hope for many, but now as the fiscal resources dwindled, the harsh reality set in that even the mightiest nations had their limits. The announcement was more than a budgetary update. It was a signal of a turning point in the conflict, and one that did not favor Ukraine. Last month's request by President Joe Biden for an additional $106 billion in aid, earmarked in part for Ukraine, had hit a wall of resistance. Conservative lawmakers, led by the newly elected House Speaker Mike Johnson, had agreed to approve funds for Israel, but the aid for Ukraine was put on hold. Johnson had insisted on prioritizing U.S. border security, drawing a controversial parallel that sparked debate across the nation. If we're going to take care of a border in Ukraine, we need to take care of America's border as well, he had stated, a line that would be quoted and argued over in the days to come. Back in Kiev, Zelensky took a deep breath before speaking. Today we face a new challenge, he began, his voice laced with the gravitas of the moment. The aid from our friends in the United States has been a lifeline, but we understand that every nation has its own priorities and difficulties. If you are enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to subscribe, share the video, and comment. President Zelensky continued, his gaze occasionally meeting the lens of the camera, broadcasting Ukraine's plight to the world. The steadfast support of the American people and their leaders in Congress has not gone unnoticed. We are grateful for every effort, every dollar, every word of support in our fight for sovereignty and freedom, he said. The news of reduced USA had come at a critical juncture. Winter was fast approaching, and with it, the challenges of warfare would be compounded by the elements. Kirby, during his briefing, had touched upon this. The Ukrainians will be the first to tell you that they aren't making as much progress on this counter-offensive as they would like. The weather will soon set in and make it harder for them to make any progress. The somber reality was that the assistance provided thus far was running dry. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre had attempted to put a positive spin on the situation, highlighting the strategic distribution of the remaining funds. We are beginning to provide Ukraine with smaller presidential drawdown authority packages in order to stretch out our ability to support Ukraine for as long as possible, she informed the press. This strategic distribution was an echo of the U.S. administration's attempt to balance immediate aid with the foresight of prolonged conflict. Yet, in the halls of Congress, debates raged on about the future of U.S. involvement. Speaker Mike Johnson's insistence on the correlation between foreign aid and domestic security measures had opened a Pandora's box of political rhetoric, which seemed to spread through the Capitol with the same fervor as the chants of protesters outside its marbled steps. For Zelensky, the challenges were more immediate than political grandstanding. The realities of war were not confined to the convenience of fiscal years or election cycles. The valor of our soldiers, the resilience of our people, these cannot be quantified in budgets or aid packages yet. They are bolstered by the support we receive from our allies, he declared, his voice firm. The Gallup poll numbers on American support for Ukraine had been a backdrop to the current situation, revealing a complex web of public opinion. While the desire to help Ukraine remained strong, there was an undercurrent of concern over indefinite involvement. the 61% of U.S. adults favoring a time limit on aid reflected a wariness, a growing fatigue over prolonged foreign engagement. Despite this, Zelensky's resolve in his address was unshaken. We understand the world is watching, and history will remember the choices made during these times. Our fight is not only for the land we stand on, but for the principles of national sovereignty and self-determination. Zelensky pressed on, his words reaching across oceans to touch hearts and minds. As President Zelensky finished his speech, the room was silent, save for the soft shuffling of papers and the quiet hum of electronic equipment. The emotional display, a leader on the brink of tears, was a stark humanization of the geopolitical strife, often sanitized by distance and diplomacy. The narrative of aid and assistance was not just about the military hardware, the economic sanctions, or the humanitarian packages. It was about the people whose lives were altered by the tides of war and the decisions made in halls of power far removed from the front lines. It was a narrative still being written, each day with each decision, with each call for peace or preparation for battle. In Washington, the administration faced its own dilemmas. To continue the current level of support for Ukraine risked stretching U.S. resources thin and exacerbating political divides at home. To reduce aid, on the other hand, could mean abandoning a democratic nation in its hour of need, potentially altering the balance of power in a region already fraught with tension. The dialogue between nations, the shifting allegiances, the balance of power, all these played out on a global stage. But for Zelensky and his people, the consequences were immediate and personal. As the world watched, waited, and debated, the reality on the ground continued to evolve with each passing day. And as the sun set over Kyiv, casting long shadows across the Maidan, the people of Ukraine looked toward an uncertain future, their fate intertwined with the complex web of international politics and the decisions of distant allies. If you are enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to subscribe, share the video, and comment. The question of aid was more than a mere transaction. It was a testament to the bonds formed in the crucible of shared democratic values and the fight against tyranny. Zelensky's address had not only been a call for continued support, but also a reminder of the stakes at play. It was a moment that sought to galvanize the resolve of global leaders and their constituents alike, urging them not to waver in their commitment to a free and sovereign Ukraine. Meanwhile, the discussions within the White House's hallowed walls took on a somber tone, with the fiscal reserves earmarked for Ukraine's assistance nearly depleted. Each meeting was a balancing act of strategic foresight and moral imperative. John Kirby had become the face of this delicate dance, articulating the administration's stance with a gravitas befitting the gravity of the circumstances. The United States remained steadfast in our commitment to the Ukrainian people, Kirby would often reiterate, knowing full well the complexity of transforming those words into action. As each day passed, the tactical situation on the ground shifted. The Ukrainian forces, bolstered by international aid, fought with a tenacity born of defending one's homeland. But the slow progress of the counteroffensive had raised difficult questions about the long-term viability of a military solution to the conflict. The American public, whose support had been a cornerstone of the aid effort, watched anxiously as their elected representatives grappled with the path forward. On Capitol Hill, the political debates raged with an intensity that mirrored the battles being fought thousands of miles away. Speaker Mike Johnson's call for an emphasis on domestic security resonated with a faction of the populace, while others viewed it as a myopic approach to a complex international crisis. The corridors of Congress echoed with heated discussions, each party and representative wrestling with the implications of their decisions. This was the backdrop against which Zelensky's emotional appeal was made. His tears were not merely a sign of despair, but a reflection of the weight of responsibility he carried. They served as a silent rebuke to those who saw the conflict in black and white terms, ignoring the shades of gray that colored every diplomatic negotiation, every delivery of aid, every military engagement. For those on the front lines, the situation was starkly clear. Ukrainian soldiers, civilians, and volunteers worked in unison against an overwhelming force, their determination unyielding despite the uncertainty of international support. Their stories, told in hushed tones in the safety of bomb shelters or shouted defiantly in the heat of battle, were testimonies of courage in the face of an existential threat. The narrative of the Ukrainian struggle was being etched into the annals of history with each day that passed. It was a narrative that spoke of courage, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of self-determination. The images of Zelensky, once an actor and comedian, now a wartime president, were emblematic of the unpredictable script that history often writes. The international community watched and weighed its options. The Ukrainian people continued to live the reality of war, The international aid that had flowed into the country was more than just military and economic support. It was a lifeline that sustained not only the physical defense of the country, but also the morale of its defenders. This high-stakes geopolitical chess game, every move was scrutinized for its immediate impact and its long-term implications. The alliances formed, the resolutions passed, and the statements made by global leaders were dissected for any hint of a shift in policy or a wavering of resolve. Beyond the strategies and the politics, at the heart of the conflict were the people of Ukraine, whose daily lives had been irrevocably changed by war. Their resilience in the face of such overwhelming odds was a poignant reminder of the human capacity for endurance and hope. Thank you for your attention, and I welcome your thoughts and questions on this complex and vital subject. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, please like and share the video, and subscribe to get exclusive videos about how phenomenally China is developing and growing its influence. Your subscriptions and likes motivate us to generate more content, so please keep supporting us. Check out this video showing on your screen right now, and I will see you on the other side.